Robert Borzak, Shooters, Fishers and Farmers, and I'm the chair of the Powerhouse Museum's inquiry into what's going on here at Parramatta. We're on a site visit today. Actually, we've just had an inspection of the Willow Grove property, and I have to say the place is rather run down. It's not in good condition internally. There are a few original features still left in the building, but it does need a lot of work. And we would think that if we're going to make sure that this building is going to be preserved, we've also got to make sure that it gets properly restored to its original condition. And there is a lot of work to be done. I think since the government has bought the building, they've made the assumption that they are going to knock it down, and they've just let it run down. And we need to be able to understand, they need to understand that this is an important heritage item for Parramatta, and we'll be looking at it very closely.
Given its state, do you think it still should be saved?
We think the building must be saved, along with St George's Terrace. We think it's very, very important to the heritage and the detail of heritage in Parramatta. There's still plenty of space, plenty of access. We're seeing some fantastic development going on here in Parramatta. Why do you need to knock down a heritage building to purportedly try and preserve heritage? It doesn't make sense.
Can I just ask, what do you think of this spectacle? Them not letting us in here. Is that they hiding something?
I don't understand why Create New South Wales didn't cooperate with us when we asked them to allow the media in. And for us to get in here, we had to agree to the fact that we wouldn't allow the media on the property. I actually did discuss it with the lady in charge here earlier, but she still wouldn't allow you to come onto the property. All I wanted to do was get over here under the tree, but no, that wasn't allowed either. So I think it's really stupid, and I actually think you having to do the media conference through a locked gate is, from a PR point of view, 1,000 times worse for Create New South Wales than what if you had been allowed to come in and actually do the job here properly and more professionally.
So was it a worthwhile experience?
Absolutely worthwhile. It's very important for this committee to understand what this building means and what it looks like now. We've taken a number of shots internally. It's a very important heritage item for Parramatta, and we're very, very keen, obviously, to make sure that it's maintained in better condition in the long run once it does get a restoration project underway, provided, of course, the government agrees they're not going to pull it down.
Mr Chair, may I make a few comments?
Yeah, please.
I'm Walt Secord. I'm the Shadow Minister for the Arts. It's very clear. There's a reason why the government locked the gate. If you were allowed inside and you saw this historic building, you would want to preserve it. The government has serious questions to answer here. Why would you lock out the community and the media for a building like this? There's a simple reason. If you saw the inside and saw how beautiful it is, you would want to preserve it. The government knows that if the media were allowed inside, the community would demand that they stop the wrecking ball hitting this beautiful historic building.
I guess the gentleman for the CFMU. Your position on this, and does it increase the resolve in terms of the green ban?
Yeah, Darren Greenfield, the State Secretary of the CFMU in New South Wales. I've got to say today, coming here for this walk and the tour through the building, I haven't been in here previously, has emboldened me and the CFMU to keep the green ban going, and it's emboldened us and our members to continue on in the fight to keep this building. As we've said before, we think it's a disgrace. It's a disgrace that the media is locked out and cannot come in here, as the gentleman has just said. But we just say that we are here and we will stand in front of this building for as long as it takes to stop the wrecking ball going through it. It needs to remain here for the community. We've got tens of thousands of members of this community and a lot of communities around the country that are backing our green ban on this, and it needs to remain here. They can design another building if they need to, if the museum has to go here. We're obviously for construction. We are a construction union, and as you can see around Parramatta, there's plenty of buildings, there's plenty of construction going on, and our members are working on them projects. We'd love to see them working on one around here on a museum. It just does not need to be this property. And I've just got to add, we've got a lot of concern about the way this state government is doing a lot of things in secrecy here. I think this whole thing smells, and things are getting done in the dead of night, 5 a.m, taking signs down that the public put up. Some works they did, the community cleaning up St George's Terrace and coming in, removing that at 5 a.m, pulling a hotel down at midnight up the road. And we are worried that this state government is going to try and slip something through in the dead of Christmas at the middle of night and try and demo this building. Well, we'll be prepared for that.
Right. David, is there a comment you want to make? Thank you, Darren.
Yeah. First of all, the only reason the government locks out the media is because they don't want you to see what's behind these lock gates. Because what's behind these lock gates is a critical part of Parramatta's history. We've just had a tour of that building. There's 130 years of history, and it's not just the built fabric. This property was actually built by one of the first successful businesswomen in Parramatta. That social history that it tells as well is equally critical. So I'd say this to the Premier, and I'd say this to the Arts Minister. Let the media see just how special this building is. Unlock the gates and let the public see how beautiful Willow Grove is and how it is critical. If we're going to have something other than just wall-to-wall modernity in Parramatta, we need to save this history. We need to talk about having cities that are more than just shiny glass and concrete and respect culture and respect heritage.
What was the reason given for not allowing it?
Sorry?
What was the reason given for not allowing it?
I think the main reason was limitation of numbers on the site. But in the end of the day, I don't actually think that that's the final reason. I think, as Mr. Shoebridge said, I think it's what it really is all about is that they don't want you to see and the public to see the important nature and fabric of this particular building as far as Parramatta is concerned. It's very, very important that it remain, and as I said earlier, that it should be properly restored to its original condition.
That's good. Suzette, you've been fighting for this. What was your opinion walking through?
It was an extremely moving event walking through Willow Grove today, and I had the great honour of walking through there with two Darug elders who joined us here today and gave me a really more information that I didn't even know about this place and its connection to First Nations people and their interaction with Annie Gallagher, who was the owner of this building. And I think there's another whole element here that the government is ignoring, and that's the Darug people and their connection to this place and to the river, and they are fighting to retain this place, as is the community. We are being censored left, right and centre of the love we have for this place. We have come up and we've put hearts up here today to show our love for this place. We've cleaned up with local Western Sydney artists, the St George's Terrace. Local Western Sydney artists put artwork up to show how much they love heritage, and it was censored and ripped down overnight. And that's not going to stop us. We are up for the fight, and the Premier needs to know that we are not backing down, and our support base is just increasing. And with the CFMEU, the Nurses and Midwife Union, the National Trust, Historic Houses Trust, and the people of New South Wales that have reached out to us, we will fight till we win this.
Yeah!
We have representatives from the Darug and then Kylie Winkworth.
How was that experience? You talked about it being a moving experience. How was it for you?
Yeah, it is a very moving experience. Obviously, Michelle and I came here to welcome the parliamentarians and anyone else that came here today to our country. Willow Grove has been on our radar for the last decade. As you know, First Nation people here, we're really behind the move to save Willow Grove. The combined history of this place, the colonial history, the pre-colonial history, is all a part of Darug history. You know, this place is one of the only places, which is very rare, that has no negative history or negative impact recorded in its interactions with Darug people. So that in itself is really quite telling, and it just shows us that there must have been relationships and understanding and reciprocity happening back then. So yeah, we're fully behind the move to save Willow Grove. You know, we have been working around the museum coming here and sit on the community reference panel, and so we have our own concerns which we lodged our response to as Darug Strategic Management Group. House is beautiful, it's stunning. Yes, it needs repairs, but it's so special, and anyone that walks in there is able to feel all the emotions. It would be just tragic to see it moved. Yeah.
I don't understand how you could honour the history and the culture and the diversity of Parramatta with a new museum. That to establish a new museum, you have to destroy what's already here. We have history, we have culture, we have science. It's here. You need to look at it, not destroy it to put up something that's going to be cold and stale and not have a history at all.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Last, Kylie Winkworth. Do you need them lift raised?
No, we should be fine.
I just wanted to say Willow Grove was built in 1891 for Annie Gallagher, who ran a haberdashery store round the corner in Church Street. She was the owner of Willow Grove. She commissioned this building as a statement of her ambition and prosperity. It's an extraordinary, generous and beautifully detailed building. You can see some of that on the fence posts here with the lovely flannel flower detailing. The fence itself was commissioned in 1892. She wanted to see this building perfectly finished, and then she ran headlong into the 1890s depression. There's an extraordinary story here, layered of history. It relates to a network of women's history sites across Parramatta, and that's the secret history that needs to be told. I think the question for the people of Parramatta is, do they want more concrete and glass, or do they want authentic heritage and gardens and a lovely green walkway down to the river?
Can I just jump check, Robert, just so I just don't take you out of context? I know you said it's run down, but when a few people have said it's quite beautiful, you've been nodding as well. Do you agree that it is beautiful but run down? Or?
It is a beautiful building, but it is run down. And there are many of its features internally that are intact, but there are many that are not. For example, upstairs, there's a water hole through the ceiling, which is revealing the old ceiling work, the old slats and the old horsehair plastering. Now, it's beautiful work. It could be restored properly, and that's what needs to be done. The echo of the beauty of this building is still there, and it needs to be put back to the way it was.
In case the building is not to stand, what would you like to happen with it?
If the building was to be kept,
How would you like it to be used, or how would the community like it to be used?
well, there are heritage artisans, because I myself have a Italianate house in Ashfield, and I know what it takes to restore it, and all the work can be done. It's a lot of work, but you can buy all the original plaster work. The artisans are still there. It should be restored back to its original condition. Also, of course, the colour. The colours of this building are not original either. That needs to be done too. The colour work could be easily restored.
How about after the restoration?
After the restoration, it should become a public place, and it should be open to the public. We've seen the highly successful result in the Rocks in Sydney of the Green Band there, and everybody screamed about that at the time, but look how fantastic it is. We still have the heritage there, but it's also commercial. Something could be done here, I'm sure, in the longer run that would make it work all the way round for, well, the New South Wales government who now own it.
How have you found dealing with the government on this issue?
That's a question I would have to say, given the length of our inquiry since we started this whole process, I'd have to say we've found the government very uncooperative.
Could I just say something on that? What we've seen, what you see with Willow Grove is an example of the arrogance of the state government and arrogance towards Western Sydney and Parramatta. Only in Parramatta would the government say you have a choice. You can choose between your history or a museum. And the message we've got from the local community, from the Darug elders, from the Parramatta residents is Parramatta deserves and needs both this beautiful history and a world-class museum.